Hello everyone, this is the Familer DAVENER number 46, and I'd like to dedicate all the words of Torah I'm about to say to the full recovery of Rabbi Pesach Kron, Pesach Yosef ben Hinda, who's now recovering from a stroke. May God give him a refuah shalema, and in his honor I'd like to share a Rabbi Pesach Kron story with you. So many years ago I asked him for a story about davening. As you can well imagine, that's what I always look for. And he told me the following. He's a mohel amongst his many traits. And as a mohel, he fulfills the minhag that in Psuki de Zimra, V'charot imo habrit, he takes over for the chazan, and he says that passage up until the words b'mayim azim, pasuk by pasuk. Every time there's a bris. So there was a bris in the shul, he goes and switches the chazan. He told me, you wouldn't believe it, the chazan is chazaning, saying Atah Hashem Elokeinu Shebechata B'Avram, and texting at the same time. Davening and texting. That's the Rabbi Pesach Kron's story. Well, can you hold the cell phone in your hand during davening? So there's a Gemara in Brachos that's paskin in Shulchan Aruch that says as follows, and I quote his words to you: Keshehu mitpalel lo yochaz biyado, during davening, namely Shmoneh Esrei, don't hold in your hands not tefillin, not a sefer, not a loaf of bread, not a knife, and not, of course, a full plate of food. Why? And I quote, because all you're worried about is they shouldn't fall. Imagine holding a full plate of food during Shmoneh Esrei. All you're worried about is, am I balancing it? Yes, no, maybe. And if that happens, yitrad v'titpatel kavanato. If that happens, then ultimately you won't have kavanah for the words of davening. You'll have kavanah for this thing not falling out of your hands. If that applied to a cell phone. So there's a machlokas rishonim. Does it apply only to these specific things that the Gemara said, namely a loaf of bread, a knife, etc., or to anything? Rabbeinu Yonah brings 2 points of view. Suffice it to say, I don't think today people are too worried if their cell phone falls out of their hands. I think it happens a lot to many of us, and we all buy cell phones with a very nice defense around it, and a defense upon a defense, that even if it falls down, we're not so worried. So from this perspective, I don't think we have to worry it's going to fall out of our hand. But the first point of the Shulchan Aruch, Shema Yitrad, and his last point, V'titpatel kavanato, is very real. Does the cell phone enhance kavanah or take away kavanah? If you have a sitter in your cell phone, and in that sitter you have names of cholim, for example, people that are acutely ill, not the long list of cholim that people always put names on and never take names off. Talking about an acute, very practical list. You know these people need a refuah shalema, and the cell phone's wonderful. But if, on the other hand, all you're worried about as you daven is you see the WhatsApp come in, the text come in, the email come in, and that's where your kavanah is going to be, then you shouldn't daven with a cell phone, even if there's a sitter in your cell phone. Or make sure that you have a function that the sitter overrides everything. Namely, when you see the sitter, nothing else is seen. I personally have this kind of sitter in my cell phone called a tefillon. You can download it from one of those shops, I forgot what it's called, to get down the apps, and ultimately you'll be able to have a sitter where even if phone calls come in, you won't see it. But you have to make sure to do what you have to do, and that is, A, you're about to daven, put your mind there. B, make sure to put the phone on silent, because it will ring and buzz if you don't. And C, make sure that you're not worried that it's going to fall out of your hands. If indeed you have all these things in place, I don't see any problem to daven with a cell phone. But if you don't put it on silent, and you don't have a sitter that overrides everything else, then I think that you shouldn't be davening with a cell phone, because indeed your kavanah will be more on what's coming into the cell phone versus the davening itself. So lahalacha, I daven with the cell phone. I make sure that that function of the sitter overrides everything. And indeed, I'm not so worried that it falls out of my hand, because it fell out of my hand 20 times that day and nothing happened. If that's the case, then I think the cell phone could be wonderful, because you can put in it the things you want to daven for. But if you don't have these things in place, namely, it's on silent, it doesn't override all the functions, I'd be very weary to daven from a cell phone. Wishing everyone a good day, and may Rab Pesach Kron have a refuah shalema.